When it comes to audience sentiment, you cannot predict it all. You can't know it all. It's just not possible. And your audience is going to shift anyway. So let's talk about preparation. This sort of audience intel that you need for your business, for your brand, for your reputation management, for your sort of strategic planning. Um, it's funny because when I get involved in this kind of work, and when I have done in the past, it's possible to really overthink sentiment, um, because your audience can be quite fickle and they can change quite a lot. And so, what people want, what they will cancel, what they love is likely to change and shift quite regularly. And so I think the mistake that we make is we can get really quite fixated on this sort of audience sentiment work that we all tend to do. I mean, it's great that you're doing it, and it's important to do it, but there is something to be said about sort of being truly quite agile and in the mix, and when you're kind of just in the flow, there's momentum, and you're keeping an eye and an ear to the ground, and you're grabbing all that kind of intel as you go. Of course, capture it, do some forecasting, do some analysis, but I think there's a problem when you aren't in the mix and you are just on the sideline doing a hell of a lot of analysis and then you're calling the shots. Audience moods shift daily, weekly, monthly. It's just all the time. It's the nature of digital communications, and it's the nature of user behavior because of the devices in their hands. Even brands with the biggest teams, they can't fully read the room. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think they can fully read the room. By the way, if you're here for leveling up your strategic thinking, I would love for you to subscribe, like, and comment. Massive brands can't know everything. I mean, how many big brands have you noticed like completely flop with a launch, a release, the way they've managed something, or the way they've managed sort of a communications crisis? Um, they're not perfect at it. In fact, they tend to take risks with their audience. Like, what do you remember that Jaguar campaign where they launched a new model and people were so upset because the classic Jaguar design was nowhere to be seen. It looked like a very bubbly puffer jacket of a car rather than the kind of iconic design that Jaguars have always had. And so brands take these kinds of risks all the time. You could say that they've done some preparation. Maybe they've gotten a bit lost with their sort of creative strategists a little bit. Um, and I think in the case of Jaguar, because there was so much noise about it, you could be inclined to think and believe that perhaps that was the whole purpose of it, right? Because there was so much talk about it. So to be a brand who is prepared, you've got to do that kind of smart thing, and that is to run through multiple scenarios for any given situation. Because when you do scenario planning, you look at the risks and you look at what you would do in those situations. And then what ends up happening is you become far more resilient, and able to deal with something that might pop up. Um, and then there's going to be times where you're going to have to take a bit of a gamble. I mean, that's the game. There's always going to be risk. Do the preparation and be prepared to take the gamble. You can't control audience sentiment all the time. You can manage your response though. But that's going to take part, that response is going to be many parts. It's not just going to be the one part. I think it's really quite interesting and quite funny, actually. I laugh at it. I'm not mocking, but I do find it a little bit funny when brands think that the one statement is just going to suffice. It's not. You're going to have to do a lot more work. You're going to have to do a lot more work in order to satisfy your audience or audiences when they want a response from you. It's just not going to be enough. And um, remember, you can't control the sentiment. You can at least, at the very least, dictate the kind of direction that it takes somewhat. You know, if you know I think if you know your audience is mostly gonna love or hate something, like, that thing that you do is gonna sort of take them in that direction. So, there is some certainty to your prediction. Of course, there is. But you can't be a complete know-it-all. And a lot of decision makers tend to get teams stuck in this kind of like thinking of, oh no, this is what they want, or this is what they will do, or this is what they will think. And some really good ideas don't see the light of day because those sort of decision makers get completely stuck in know-it-allness. And you don't want to be one of those know-it-alls unless you are, in which case, why? Challenge yourselves. This is kind of check ourselves and our assumptions. If you're into this kind of content where you can get sort of creative strategy thinking and systems thinking, then check out um, the other playlist on my channel. You'll find lots of videos for different facets of your brand and your business development. I am Serena. I have more than 20 years in comms and media. I'm a chartered public relations practitioner. Essentially, it's comms. And I'm also on the last legs of my postgraduate, my MSc in systems thinking. And I do share my findings and my approach over here, but as well um, on my Systems and Questions podcast, which is linked. So you can check that out as well. So are you a know-it-all? And why do you enjoy it? Does it make you does it make you feel um much more, much less? Do you feel far less uh fearful and scared and worried and nervous and anxious because you've just got to act on what you know and what you know really well, and then not get in the mix and not get in the game as much because that's not fun. It's not fun for your brand. You need a bit of that. You need a bit of like, ooh, how will this land? Let's see. I mean, I wouldn't say that that's kind of like sabotage. What I would say is what that is you're willing as a brand to get out there into the sort of uh discourse, or to sort of test how things land with your audience, with your customers. Remember, there are multiple ways that you can engage with your audiences and your customers. It's not just going to be through your sort of one channel. There are multiple ways that you can do this. You can test things as well. You can have small groups. You can have lists for certain audiences, audience segments. Perhaps you've got like a really core group of loyal customers who are sort of a great sort of test audience. So there are many opportunities for you to kind of test things. And as brands and businesses, perhaps we get a little bit overwhelmed with, oh, don't want to get cancelled. I don't want to really annoy my audience because, oh, I'm I'm at their mercy. Um, you you're the leader of your brand. You've got to dictate some things. You cannot be solely at the mercy of your audience sentiment. That's a bit sad, I think. I think your audience also wants to see where you're willing to take things. So just, get in the game, mix it up. Let me know your thoughts on this video. I'd love to get your thoughts on where you are with your sort of brand journey. And check out my other videos. Subscribe, of course, like, comment. I'd love to hear from you. It'd really help my channel. And I'll see you in the next video.